Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
You know, John, it's like America, apple pie, and baseball.
Brad, I can't hear you when the music is playing because its majestic sounds overwhelm your voice.
Let me kill the music. Okay, see, there's non-radio people. John is not in the same studio as I am, so we have a mix-minus issue, which continues to frustrate me, mainly because of the fact that we're not using the most up-to-date equipment. Matter of fact, there's still some spaghetti left in this piece of equipment from the Marconi people. So,
hey, you know, to quote a famous group from the mid-'80s, Starship, Brad, Marconi plays the mamba. Listen to the radio. Don't you remember? We built this city. We built the city on rock and roll.
Do you know, it's funny you should mention that, Jefferson Starship. It's funny you should mention that because there have been people that have said that is the worst rock and roll song everywhere.
I have heard that. I've heard that. Now, see, I love that song.
Well,
and that song reminds me of third grade. Like, I love that song.
Okay, let me go back in the radio business, okay? Back in the day, when KSOQ, the station we're on right now, but not the same station, 98.1, which is now Y98, was a top 40 station. If there was a song that became a crossover hit, like let's say it was something something from ELO, which at the time was like KC95 material, you know, KC95 playing ELO. If we started playing that on KSOQ as a top 40 song, it immediately got dropped on KC. So once it became mainstream, it just got booted off of KC. And what was, I think, the evolution of Jefferson Starship at one point, you know, originally they were Jefferson Airplane, then became Jefferson Starship. And they were like this counterculture, hate Ashbury, San Francisco rock and roll.
Yeah, they had White Rabbit, right? That was their main song, man.
And they had Grace Slick, who at the time was this hottie, but you could tell that she had an attitude. And men, I don't need men. You know, she was sort of that.
Real girl power before it was a thing.
Right, exactly. And then all of a sudden they morphed into sort of a top 40 kind of group. And the KC people said, man, Jefferson Airplane or Jefferson Starship sucks. They suck. So that's why that's... And the crazy part of it is, that song, We Built This City, is extremely well produced. I mean,
yes, it is, isn't it? And they do like a call from... like, you're listening to the City by the Bay. Like, they actually do, like, a call thing from a San Francisco station, right?
There's a DJ doing a line in the thing, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, and he's talking about the greatest city in the City by the Bay, San Francisco. You know? he's got that DJ voice. And see, that's why they took it off of KC, because once the guy was on there saying, hey, this is Jefferson Starship, and it's the greatest city in the world. And people are, oh, my God, it's a top 40 guy. Click, off it goes. Okay.
And how did we get How did we get on Marconi?
Because
you were saying it was still in the keyboard.
No, I don't. Who knows?
Now the main downside, though, Brad, is something that I beat myself. We're going to have a rare moment of admission here from me, is that one of the things I beat myself up about is just because the fact that we're not in the same studio, Brad. So many times when I go back, and I'm very critical when I listen to myself and I go back and listen, like, you'll attempt to say something and I'll continue talking, but that's not just because I'm a jerk, which I am, but it's because in this case that I don't actually hear you. So I'll listen to the show back and I'll be like, God, Brad was trying to make like a salient point, you know, which you do at least once a week, Brad. You would try to interject with a salient point and I would just bulldoze and be like, oh yeah, and one more thing.
John.
So, you know, I'm sure that annoys the heck out of people, but you know, that's us, Brad.
John, the guy who gives me nothing but compliments. And you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to do right now, and I'm going to show you. See, first off, I can't get John on the what does TOP spell, what does HOP spell. I can't get John in there because he's too quick.
Oh, so quick.
But let me show you how quick he is. I will say one word. It'll be a proper noun, and John will come up with a number. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Tracy.
6. We've had 5 this week. So Brad, we are officially over 1.0 references per show. Now for folks who are listening for the first time, you know how you have a friend like in high school who broke up with a girl, and then the dude's like, yeah. And then I drove by Tracy's house the other day, and there was a Nissan Sentra there, and I think Todd's dad has a Nissan Sentra, and I don't know, and I know, I'm not mad about it, but why is Todd over there?
One of my all-time favorite, it's funny you should bring that up, one of my all-time favorite country songs is by a guy named Rhett Akins, and what's really interesting is Rhett Akins is the father of and his real name is Rhett. I have to look this up. His real name is Rhett Akins something or other, and his son is now a huge country star. And Rhett Akins uses his first and middle name, and his son uses his middle name and the last name. Anyway, the song's called "That Ain't My Truck." And
I don't even know. I've never heard it, but I love it already, Brad.
And it's hold on a minute, boy. We're off to a start. We're all over the landscape already. See, this is what happens when John gets me sidetracked like this.
Marconi plays the mamba.
Hold on, I'll read you. Matter of fact, I used to play it on Westplex as one of my Friday songs.
Oh yeah, you guys had Break the Format Friday.
Right,
and Shelley. Shout out to Shelley Barr.
We would play stuff that wasn't necessarily the format. That ain't my truck. Okay. And matter of fact, it's actually a very sad song. Lyrics. Okay. Here we go. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
She's been going out with him. She's been going out with me. Said she'd let us know by tonight which one it would be. So I waited by the phone, but she never called me up. How to know what's going on? So I drove by her house, and sure enough, and then the refrain is, that ain't my truck in her drive. Man, this ain't my day tonight. Looks like she's in love, and I'm out of luck. That ain't my shadow on her wall. Lord, this don't look good at all. That's my girl, my whole world, but that ain't my truck.
Incredible, Brad. And the rejection of beta simps and beta orbiters plays into, and I think we'll have to carry this into segment 2, Brad, because I think it's a relevant story. But the rejection of some simp personalities by a stronger, higher status personality plays into story number 3 today, Brad.
Well, here, let me. I know you're hinting of me to start the stuff, but one more verse, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
I pulled over by the curb. I've been sitting here all night, wondering what it was I did so wrong that he did so right. I thought of breaking down the door, but that's nothing left to say. That Chevy 4x4 says it all, sitting in my place. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, my goodness. What this guy gets wrong about that is that I never drove a Chevy 4x4, Brad. And I know the chick that he's talking about. But, dude, you lost her. And by the time a man thinks that he might be losing his woman, Brad, she's been long gone. Because she's been you know what monkey branching is, right?
I do not. You come up with all these interesting terms. Tell me what monkey branching is.
Monkey branching is the idea, and men do this and women do this. It's the idea of if you watch a monkey swing, they don't let go of the branch they're holding on to until they have their hand on another branch. So if a woman is monkey branching, she's in a relationship with a guy, but she's texting you and she's kind of feeling you out and she wants to see what your status is and how you rank with her. So she's not going to let go of her boyfriend until she thinks, okay, I could actually be in John's top 5. I could be in John's top 3. John might someday make me his primary woman. She's not going to let go of that relationship until she knows that she has some kind of a future with you. And the John, by the way, is a hypothetical John. I'm not talking about me, of course. But monkey branching is the concept of men or women not letting go of their current relationship until they know they have a hold on the next one.
John gives me all sorts of stuff I didn't know about. I didn't know what meat shield was. Now there's monkey branching. I'm telling you. You know what? It's time to go to the Polka Boys.
Time for the John Combe Best Top 3.
And once again, every show we start off with, as we call it in the radio business, Segment A, where we take John Combest, who does this website called johncombest.com, Combest, or as the polka guy saying, Combest. And every morning we start off with 3 of what John thinks are the 3 biggest things on his 30 to 40 to 50 item list on johncombest.com. And Casey comes along and starts it off with...
We're on our way to the number 1 in 3rd place.
Brad, one of your favorite reporters, that's name is not Jason Rosenbaum, put together a piece on the St. Louis City budget. You say, John, how boring and dry could that be? Well, the answer is it generally is boring and dry because it's about consolidation of pension plans and aldermen overriding a veto and whatever. But one of your favorite reporters, Brad, KSDK's Mark Maxwell, posted a piece where he talks a little bit about the St. Louis City Board of Aldermen overriding a Mayor Tishaura Jones veto. But here's what's interesting, Brad. Here's the sentence. The aldermen's rare move to override Jones' veto of pension consolidation appeared to create something of a personal rift between allies at City Hall. Not long after the vote, several aldermen that voted to override the mayor noticed that she had unfriended them on her Facebook page. Now, Brad, do you think this is fair play, or do you think it's petty, or do you think, well, who cares?
Do you really want me to be honest? I was playing that.
I do. I want you to know.
I'm sorry. I
want to know.
I was playing that in my truck in my headphones here. Okay. Oh, do I think it's petty? Yeah, it's grade school stuff. How's that?
You know what? I think it's a little petty, but here's the thing. And maybe we should talk about – do we have time in the second segment to talk about why I actually think it's a good idea, like sarcasm aside, why I think it's a good idea for her to unfriend them? Because we're already at – I mean, we got 8 more minutes left for the next 2. What do you think? Can we come back to this, or should we talk about it now?
Yeah, because we got to finish this segment off with a new song that I put together last night. So
okay, so let's come back to Tishaura unfriending, okay?
Okay, we'll move on.
Up a notch to number 2.
Big legislation passed yesterday in the Missouri House of Representatives, Brad. Colloquially known as school choice, giving students across the state of Missouri options to go to districts that they might not live, or as some people say, funding students, not systems, passed the House yesterday, Brad. This Senate bill, or this education bill, had already passed the Missouri Senate. Now it is headed to Governor Parson. He's expected to sign it. Brad, the interesting thing, and there's a whole lot of stories up today on my website about this, I would suggest Kason Bayless from the Kansas City Star wrote a piece. I would suggest folks check that one out. But interestingly, Brad, Kason calls out in his story the fact that state legislators are making it more difficult for schools to move to 4-day school weeks. I know this is an issue that you have an opinion on, Brad, and you'll also be interested to know that the gentleman who spoke about this in the Kansas City Star piece is none other than Phil Cristofanelli, state representative from St. Peter's, who's running for state senate, and the son of your friend Christy.
Yes.
So, Brad, you get what you want, which is making it a little bit harder for school districts to move to 4 days a week.
Cindy Cristofanelli. You said Christy.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, isn't her name Christine Cristofanelli? Don't you call her Triple C?
No, it's Cindy.
I got it
Cindy
wrong.
Cristofanelli.
Yeah,
yes.
It happens, Brad.
Okay.
So I would suggest folks go check it out. You know what was controversial about it, Brad? And there's been a whole lot of silliness and a whole lot of nonsense around the Capitol the last few weeks with some bizarre lobbying efforts that have gone on. But this bill had split, it appears, the homeschool community because there were some folks who were and are homeschool advocates that dislike the idea of the state being able to tell private institutions or homeschoolers how to do their job. And the idea, I think, from these critics was that, hey, if you give private schools money, then you're just inviting state meddling into curriculum and things like that. So it got to be a pretty nasty debate at some point, Brad.
You know, I'm for 6-day-a-week school. That's what I'm for. But
that's where you and I differ. And I say we go to the Sunday school model, Brad. Why should teachers have to work more than 1 day a week?
You know, you're right. They just come in 1 day and they're done. Okay, time for
the number 1
across the state, our friend Pete Mundo, he's had a banger of a week, Brad. He's been talking about migrant workers. Yesterday, he had Congressman Eric Burlison from Missouri's 7th Congressional District. That's the Springfield area. He had Congressman Burlison on, and he asked some questions about, general stuff that's going on in the federal government. But importantly, he asked about Speaker Mike Johnson. And Brad, yesterday you made a reference to Marjorie Taylor Greene and the idea of vacating the chair. And he asked Eric Burlison, he said, well, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good idea to vacate the chair? What do you think? And it was interesting. So Eric Burlison says that he doesn't even recognize Speaker Mike Johnson anymore. And he pointed out the fact that as recently as February, Mike Johnson was saying, look, we're not going to throw any more money at Ukraine unless we fix what's going on at the border. Unless we get a reasonable border fix, we're not sending more money to Ukraine. Now Mike Johnson has, quote, seen the light, according to the Post-Dispatch, on Ukraine. Point is, Brad, Pete pressed him on it a little bit, and Eric Burlison said, look, I haven't made my mind up. He's not sure which way he's going to go on this idea of vacating the chair. But the congressman had a funny line. You might remember a couple months ago, Brad, we talked about the fact that Congressman Burlison asked some questions of folks that were coming in talking about UFOs. Or there's a new term for UFOs. I forgot what the new term is. But anyway, Congressman Burlison said, look, excuse me, I don't know. He's like, I'm not convinced that Speaker Johnson isn't actually an alien, hasn't actually been replaced by an alien, because he's just done such a pivot on these issues. So I thought it was a colorful comment from Congressman Burlison. And it goes to show, Brad, if you are a conservative member, or even let's say a right-wing member of Congress, you might not want to be in the same bucket as MTG. You might think she's a little bit out there, but you might look at Mike Johnson and say, what happened to the guy that we chose to replace Speaker Kevin McCarthy? And one more thing about this, Brad. Congressman Burlison pointed out that when folks were pushing to get rid of Kevin McCarthy, Eric Burlison wasn't one of them. And he feared that whatever we replaced, I say we as Republicans, whatever we replaced Kevin McCarthy with could be worse. And Eric Burlison says that might be right.
Okay.
So those are our top 3 today, Brad.
2 things real quick on that.
Yeah.
First off, have you seen this? I don't know if this is old or not. I saw it just the other day on a YouTube Shorts or whatever they call them, Reels, or I get confused. Everybody calls them different on the different platforms. Where Kevin McCarthy essentially talks about the fact that the reason Matt Gaetz was in for his blood was because of the fact that he wouldn't defend him on some charge that he'd had sex with a 17-year-old. Do you know about?
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen this latest thing, but I know that had to be the crux of it, right?
Oh, well, this is so bizarre. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is I have it on authority that I'm going to have to start my radio poop column up again, because we're about to get, depending upon how many you count, us included, we're about ready to get your 6th or 7th or 8th talk radio station here in St. Louis.
No way, really?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to talk about it when we come back?
I'll just give real briefly. There's a thing on the FCC website where you can reserve call letters, and I saw this come up the other day, where sometimes people will switch call letters, but they don't want to switch effectively. They're doing a format swap or something like that, or they're putting a new station on the air, so they actually will file it with the FCC as a reserved call letter. Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to start a talk station here in St. Louis.
Nice. I love it.
And she's reserved the call letters of WAKO. So
wow. Now, because it's WKO, that has to be technically across the river, right? Because for folks who don't know, is that still the case, Brad? If you're on the east of the Mississippi River, your call letters start with a W?
WAKO, John.
WAKO. Interesting.
It's called Wacko Radio.
Yeah. And so now, from what I understand, though, they have quite a video set up, because she said that she was going to continue doing her squats in the video, right, Brad?
Does she really have an exercise video out?
She has multiple, Brad. Now, one of her gimmicks during COVID was that she was like, hey, you don't need a gym to work out. And she has an extensive fitness background, Brad. So she set up like a home gym. Oh, there's great videos out there. Now, the other thing is that the FCC website doesn't show is that, did you know, because of how unstable she is, she hasn't been able to get any equity for furniture in her office. Did you hear this, Brad?
No, when they took her furniture away, was that what the deal is?
Well, I said she didn't need a chair as long as well, I don't know.
It's that, are you making a joke like what happened in Missouri where Eigel got his furniture taken away or whatever? Remember when
and here's the thing. I told her, I said, listen, you don't need a chair as long as you have me, Marjorie.
I get it. Okay, one last thing before we go. Segment A, which is our big segment, because if you look at our numbers, everybody listens to John's top 3, and then they start to drop off. I mean, we kill it in segment A, so I'm going to take a minute more, and I want to play for you.
Okay.
I want to play for you the latest song from the BJ Singers. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Here we go. It's only a minute.
Teachers are the new millionaires. They may act poor, but money they got more. Just ask Dave Ramsey, think teachers don't get paid well. When it comes to making money, they ring the bell. And if you say they don't work hard, they will tell you go straight to detention.
Now we have a little bit of a musical interlude here. Yeah, a little interlude right here, little piano playing, and then they come back and they bring it home. They bring it home with the teachers are the new millionaires. You ready? Here we go.
It's like teachers don't get paid well. When it comes to making money, they ring the bell. And if you say they don't work hard, they will tell you go straight to detention.
You like John?
Incredible, Brad. You know, for years I thought, since roughly 1984, I thought no one could impeach Hot for Teacher as the best teacher song ever, but you just did it, Brad.
And with very little drum track. Matter of fact, I think there's brushes on that. There's not even any drumsticks. Okay, we have to take a break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T. John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?